And I don't even need to record this. Oh well, I think we're live. Let's see. I have the YouTube thing open on my other screen. If you are in the audience and if you can hear or see us, please let us know. So far, I'm not seeing anything here.
I don't see it live.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Dave. Nice to see you here, even though nobody's seeing us apparently.
So the audio on here. How long? Okay.
It says I'm live. It does say we're live.
Yeah,
can
we're
anybody?
good now.
Sorry.
Yep.
Bingo.
Let's go.
Welcome.
Yes, wonderful. We're live. I like it. Hello, folks. How's it going? So let me just pause this here on my other screen so it doesn't distract me. We're back. It's been a while, right? We were just thinking, when was the last time we were live with any Bridge Builders related stuff? I think it was like a month ago, right?
It's been a hot minute.
It's been a hot minute. It's been enough time for me to completely forget how to use EVMux. There's that. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you're watching from. We've got 10 people here. That's wonderful. Very nice. We've got 10 waiting. We've got 2 watching, apparently. Okay, fair enough. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you can hear us, if you can see us, if everything's fine. And we, I figured we'd start with a nice inspirational quote just to set the mood, and then we'll, unpack that and take it apart and see if it's still true at the end of the stream, or if we need to correct that number up to 100%.
Yeah, I doubt it. We have to keep some room for the future.
Max is going to tell us how to not be fucked. That's the goal.
Yeah, pretty much. Dave from London, Dave Den.
Welcome.
Thanks for stopping by, man. Should we start with a quick round of introductions?
Hell yeah.
We could start off. I think we'll just keep Max just sitting there and smiling while we talk a little bit about ourselves. And then we introduce our wonderful guest. Brendan, do you want to kick this off? Say a little bit about who's here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Maddie.
Why are you here?
I'm Brendan. I'm going for it. I'm jumping in. I'm cutting you off. No, I just want to get my stuff out of the way because I don't care about me, right? No one cares. I'm sure people have seen my videos or not. Then I do agency work. I go to WordPress meetups, just learning stuff all the time, and here to learn from Max a little bit about what he's doing with AI. So thanks for having me.
Oh yeah. I'll go next. I'm Mark Szymanski. Maybe you guys have seen me. If you just go to mjs.bio, all my links and everything are there. Obviously, I make YouTube videos. I have an agency, build websites, a lot like other folks here. I'm very excited. We chatted with Max offline. I think it was last week. He's a wealth of knowledge in the AI space, and it's something that I think we all need to kind of be, at least have our eye on a little bit, how we can improve our own workflows, what's coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited for this conversation. So, yep.
Yeah, same here. I see the chat's filling up a little. We've got WP Tuts here. Very nice to join us. Thank you very much. Good to see you, man. We've got Ruben. We've got Daniele. Hey, Daniele. Is it the first time you're on one of our streams? It's good to have you here, man. And Dave. So that's wonderful. My name is Matt. And together, Brendan, Mark, and me, we are the Bridge Builders crew. We started Bridge Builders a couple months ago, and since then have had 3 episodes of the actual Bridge Builders stream. And yeah, Daniele from Bricksport is here. And 56K, that's Marco. Marco, thanks for joining. Ross is here. Awesome. Thanks for joining us, guys. And yeah, so exactly, my name's Matt. And yeah, we're together, we're this crew of Bridge Builders people. And this is the second episode of Bridge Builder Brains. Our first episode was sort of a behind the scenes talk type of thing where we just talked about what's the philosophy of bridge builders? How are we doing this? What plans do we have for the future? And it was a really interesting conversation. It's also where we introduced Brandon for the first time. And now I figured having Max here, Mark, is a nice opportunity for another Bridge Builder Brains episode, because Max is going to be one of the guests on episode 4 of Bridge Builders, where he's going to show off an AI-powered workflow with a bunch of tools. So we're going to see how he builds websites, and we're going to see some of that today as well. But then next time it's going to be with another guest who is yet to be announced, but we know who it is. And for today, we're just going to basically get an idea of how Max works and if he's actually AI or if he's real. So, Max, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself? You've been in the game since '97, right?
Yeah, a long time. I've been playing around with web technologies. And hi, everybody. I'm Max, and I'm probably the first time on a stream here. I usually am lurking in the shadows of the comments of the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
I guess some of the people know me here. Certainly, I'm really happy to see Daniela and Paul, and they for sure know me from the comments. Or Daniel, I actually have been also part of his forum. Really great work he's doing. I love his stuff, and I'm really happy to see him here. Overall, I've been in the industry working different technologies, so I've kind of seen a lot of iterations. I mean, I might look a little younger, but sometimes people tell that to me. But actually a 70s guy, so I did the full 90s and the full .com phase, and went through times where I had to build my own little CMSs and stuff like that. And so then after a while, I got into a lot of visual stuff, because I was also working in the agency market in Berlin, and we did a lot of advertisement. So I actually come also from a side of doing a lot of web animation on the web. And I actually have to admit that I also did Flash, where I got into it with Macromedia Director, did some CD-ROMs, did Flash stuff
Who
as
didn't?
well. Yeah, who didn't? Yeah, that was a crazy time. And sometimes I miss it a little bit, because the web after mobile got pretty boring, very commercial. Then sometimes I don't miss it, because everybody was inventing the navigation, and you always had to kind of find your way through web pages. But it was fun. We did a lot of games, and yeah, I mean, I got into AI, and this topic came up because I guess I was watching Bridge Builder episodes, and kind of also some streams of Mark, and commenting about using AI and workflows. And I thought, so then kind of Mark invited me to talk a bit about how I use it, because I guess I was a little bit humble bragging about it. But there is a big range, and I know that a lot of like hardcore developers, like I guess also here, like Daniel, and so they come from a more of a traditional background. I'm just putting words in his mouth now, but in general, I'm talking about all of Primagen. They are people that are really software developers. So I'm somewhere in the middle, because I used web technologies. I used a lot of Vue and client-facing stuff. So I'm a little more open to that technology. I dove into it pretty early. I somehow got an invitation. I think I went into the waitlist, and some of you guys here probably also have done that. Then I was on the OpenAI playground, and I was kind of blown away when I saw that first time, because I mean, who went through the 90s and who didn't think about talking machines? If I was a big fan of Kubrick's work and 2001 and all that stuff. So first time a machine could kind of answer in a human way, even if it was doing a lot of hallucinations, I was kind of blown away. I still am, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, what are we talking about? 2022? That's when I got on board, and I think GPT-4 2 was before that. So that was kind of the release from GPT-3 then, and that was the early version. It wasn't even fine-tuned for coding yet. So I mean, we're talking about two and a half years here. Yeah. Early days, early days.
Just wondering. I mean, you have. I think you have the broadest and longest view of the whole industry out of any of us, at least out of us four. Um, and the term AI obviously has been around much longer than the chat GPT and what's happening with AI right now, which is right now it's sort of exploding. But even before then, there was AI in some way, right? Like you had AI. I remember like when Fear came out, the video game, everybody was like, the AI in this game is insane. Like the enemies are
Mm-hmm.
so smart and they corner you and flank you and shit. But it, would you say that even when you started, or like since in between when you started and say 2022, was AI a thing that kind of had an impact on what you were doing, or
Uh,
is there a cutoff?
no, no, it's pretty recent. I mean, if you the term I mean, we can talk about it. There is this. It's overhyped, and I kind of I kind of understood why Apple used the term machine learning, because if you go there is a big difference between kind of what I consider intelligence and what is kind of a good pattern recognizer, where you could kind of train an image net to kind of recognize bananas or whatever. And before there was a long time also people calling, like, let's say the bots in Quake 1 or something, they were AI because there was but it's so basic, and that this term kind of got a little bit overstretched. And there was also I think the recurrence of neural networks has kind of started around 2010 under the hoods. A lot of stuff has happened there. With Ilya Sutskever and all the crew around OpenAI. Then they formed OpenAI, and I consider AI rather the modern approach of large language models, kind of the first true AI in a way. Because for me, the conversational nature of it is really what sells it, and the iterative approach to interact with it. So yeah. Sure. There is a big hype around that term.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, I started using it in 2022. Yeah, so
okay.
for
So
development.
modern AI as we have it today kind of feels like, or I guess if you listen to some of the detractors, they're like, it's just putting pieces together of things that were done before. It's not AI. It's just a very advanced way of putting puzzle pieces together. Like there's this Adam Conover video where he
Yeah.
basically just says it's all bullshit.
Mhm.
And then of course at the other end of the spectrum are people who are like, this is the absolute future and it's going to revolutionize everything, which I personally think is probably more on the true side. But I'm kind of wondering, like one of the criticisms I've heard, or one of the ideas that are out there, is that it's just gonna reassemble stuff that's been done before, and we're sort of marching towards this dead internet where it's just AI reassembling other AI stuff and AI talking to AI and learning from AI, until like humans just retreat into these small oases where it's like, okay, we're humans in here and we're just going to talk in here and let AI just take the rest of the internet. Like, is that a scenario that you see coming in the future? Do you, or what are
Well,
your feelings on that? Like, what would you say to all the detractors?
there is certainly this aspect where you can kind of say that. But I don't subscribe to the theory that much, because for me there is this. We are still in the age of the co-pilot, as Microsoft also terms it. AI is pretty much not driven by its own motivational goals, and it's a tool, and we're gonna label it a tool for as long as we can, and even if we get into the agent phase or whatever comes next. And to speculate on the future, it's a hard thing, but to go, because you brought up a lot of topics there. This topic about it's just a pattern recognizer, and just does a completion. I listened once to Elias Sutskever, and I thought that he'd made a really great point, because he was like kind of saying, since when do you call intelligence intelligent? Because if you give the model a complete mystery about a murder, and it's a whole book, and then it has to complete the last paragraph where it says everybody is assembled in the room, and they have to kind of say, and the murderer was. So there, it has to complete now the murderer, and it has to get it right. So there is reasoning in there, and there are hidden layers of networks that we probably haven't trained for, and that's why many people call current AI a black box in sorts, and the whole topic about trying to understand how the networks actually achieve what they do is an ongoing theme, and also is a topic of discussion inside of OpenAI and all those kind of big brands these days. There is a lot of unknowns how actually these emergent properties of intelligence happen, and yeah, so I kind of see it as a matter of complexity. So we have this emergent layers of behavior and capability that just come up, and yeah, I actually think I could share my screen for a sec
Mm-hmm.
if you want. Let me share this entire screen. I'm just gonna go here. So I had this little thing I put together about exactly those concepts, and I'm just going to go through them really quick. Side note: this whole presentation was done by AI. I didn't have
That's
any
amazing.
time, but because we didn't have any time, you told me like on a short notice, so I just sat down yesterday with Claude, and we kind of came up with this thing here. So it's just a couple of slides. So what is actually, I mean, for the people that are not so familiar with the topic of current LLMs, so large language models, and what is happening there, I just wanted to go over 2 or 3 concepts behind it. So what we have in our current era is like these text LLMs. Basically, they're only trained on one modality, and that's text. And under the hood, they when you enter a word, they're breaking that word apart and making so-called tokens from the word. I represented them here with colored little segments.
Are we seeing the right screen? We can see the pine grow. Am I?
Oh,
All
so
good.
you're not
I
seeing
was
this?
wondering
Okay,
the same thing.
Oh,
Oh, there we
Okay.
go. There we go. We
Oh,
can
there
see
we
it now.
go.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, then let's restart that thing. Okay, so this screen was made by Claude with me, was giving some input, just one use case already. I told so we can kind of talk about this concept of tokenization. So what tokenization is, that when if you input a couple of words in current text LLMs, they get broken apart into so-called tokens, and those tokens are in fact just numbers. I mean, you could call them also IDs of a node of a network, and based on that, on those kind of tokens, and there is already one thing happening here. There's a big kind of compression going on. So we have the whole world of text compressed into a smaller representation, and then then those tokens are used for training, and they are semantically linked to each other on an abstract level. And there is an interesting step that comes after the first breaking down into tokens. Is when you kind of there's this topic called self-attention, and this is very important because that was a big breakthrough for the LLMs, for the technology, because you now kind of have you kind of extract semantic meaning, because it's really important where a word in a sentence is. And as every word reflects on itself through the networks, it gets different semantic meaning. And this semantic meaning is very important for context. So that's why those networks can react so good if you give them bigger and bigger context, if you give them more files or in context learning, because they kind of set everything you tell them into context with the stuff they already know and the stuff you kind of give them. And then last topic I wanted
If
to
I could
go.
stop really
Yeah,
quick, so something like the
sure.
word "the" would have probably occur more frequently and be used in more context, so it would have whatever a different weight than the word "river."
Yeah, and also, I mean, you you know it from speech and from when you kind of intonate a sentence in a certain way. It could be meant sarcastic. It could be meant as it could be very sad. And in the same way, words or have different meaning where you put them into the sentence
Mm.
or what kind of context they are setting. Not only do they have a context based on where they come in the sentence, they also come have a context if there are multiple sentences, then this one sentence also has a relation to the other sentences. And so it's very, compute intense. That's why I guess NVIDIA is so needed and going through the roof, because you really have to invest a lot of compute. And that's why you won't be running big networks on your local machine. There is also another topic I wanted to go into real quick, is that there is this concept of inference. So when you once train a model, you kind of freeze it. So this big training runs we are hearing about, they are kind of milling over all the information they put in there, all this world knowledge, you can call it. You have this really big piles of knowledge getting computed into big networks. And then you have later what we're doing, we're just running them in inference mode and getting that world knowledge back. And you could say now that you're just recreating patterns that it has learned. So patterns it has found in text and all that kind of stuff. But there is a high level or degree of creativity to those networks, because you have a so-called temperature for reading those networks in inference. So if you do an inference with a very low temperature, it's zero, you will get always the same answer, because it takes the words with the same probability again and again. And if you kind of increase the temperature, it will start to see which kind of word is probably the next word, and it will take the randomness kind of gets higher. And if you go all the way over here, it gets really random what comes back. Okay, my example is very, very limited. That's what Claude came up with. And in this case, you have like a big variation. And but this is like it accumulates down the path of inference, because if you have a high temperature, you can get very creative results. But there is also this topic of how's it called, hallucination happening in this inference mode. And if they are working to rain hallucinations down, and but that's one side where you have to also be in programming. Mostly, you have to be very aware. In programming, you probably have low temperature set, and these days you don't even play with this temperature anymore, because that is done for you by OpenAI, and you don't really see those kind of sliders anymore. But I just wanted to show this concept behind it. Let me
And
just
it feels like
close
even
this.
with all you just explained to us, this is
Yeah.
barely the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg
Yeah, for
of
sure.
what AI does.
I just wanted to give some concept out, because just that we have some ground topics here, so people kind of understand how where this comes from, why we have hallucinations, because you kind of get more randomness into the token completion, and that was probably it. What I wanted to kind of show is that little
And
demo.
you brought up the compute power that's required for a lot of this stuff, and that's a topic that I don't really see get talked a lot about, because particularly with generative AI, when you're making these, like what's the name of the one that makes Sora for video, the amount of resources required to do that is pretty significant now. Is the idea that they're just going to keep expanding these server farms throughout the world, or is that compute power going to come down, or is it going to get easier to run on our own local computers, or what do you think?
Well, all of the above. Let me share another one. Just give me a sec. while we talk about compute power. So,
Because Microsoft has banked on this a lot, right? They've spent billions.
So
and
we're getting
billions
the
of
infinite
dollars.
mirror right now.
sorry. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Gotcha.
Oh wow.
So this is again just the topic you're talking about. So again, this was done by AI yesterday. Um, what you have here is like a simplified network we can look at, and you see you have a lot of input nodes, and their inference runs through this network. It's totally more complex. I just wanted to kind of have this as an illustration of complexity. So this is really, really simple what you see here, but you have, I'm gonna increase the number of nodes here. Oh, just getting it wrong here. Sorry about that. Okay. So you already see it really starts getting complex. And those nodes, the inference working on those computers is probably in the billions with all the nodes they trained, the parameters they've trained on, and then the interconnections, because every layer of a neural network can be connected to the next layer. And so the compute is practically one of the things that is scaling really, really fast. And you ask about if it's gonna be a combination of multiple factors. So you're gonna have better inference techniques. You're gonna have they have like multiple agents, multiple subnetworks, and they specialized a mixture of networks. They have kind of where they do inference across multiple of those networks, so they don't have to have one gigantic one. That's already probably done by some of the open source, and it's assumed to be also done by OpenAI, but they don't really talk about it. And also you have compute going up. NVIDIA has just unveiled new hardware, and that's really, really capable. And they are building one data center after the other. So that's going to be one thing that's going to happen. So yeah, it's going to be a mixture of all those factors going forward.
Now, I kind of want to make that bridge towards the subject for today, or I guess bring that in a little closer. Page building with AI.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to speak from my own perspective here, but I want Brendan and Mark to chime in there as well. Let's say I have a client who, I don't know, like they have hotel rooms, right? They're a hotel, and you have a, just a basic hotel website. It's just a random website, and you're supposed to build that. Well, it doesn't have to be a hotel, right? Let's not get hung up with that. But like, we get a client, we build a website for them, and how do we? Like, the way I do it these days is I use a little bit of ChatGPT to get some inspiration for copywriting. I use it for inspiration for keyword research, and an idea of what the sitemap should probably look like. And then I use Reloom to expand on that a little, get a better idea of a sitemap, also sections for the front page. And then I build the thing in bricks. Obviously there's Figma in there. There's a whole three phase process of like discovery and building and release. But really at this point, and I guess I'm lagging behind other people there, really the way that AI factors into my process is for inspiration, for laying some groundwork, and then the actual phase 2 and phase 3, the building process and the release process is really still the same old by hand kind of thing. So that's sort of my process right now. And how does that look for you guys, like all three of you? I'm curious. And we can go and look at actual tools. Also, this is a question for the chat, of course. Like, if you're watching, like, what tools are you using? Like, when I said Reloom, does everybody know what that is? I guess at this point it is. Yeah, just some things to think
I'll
about.
take a stab at it.
Mhm.
I've got a couple videos that use AI in different ways. I mean, it's very much an assistive technology for me that's like not, I don't rely on it too much, but I at the same time like use it every day, right? So Advanced Themer has a CSS AI writing tool that makes fewer mistakes than I do, writes it faster than I do. So like I don't use it for everything because sometimes it just doesn't get what I want, but like it's pretty good. I have a couple videos on that. I have BricsForge. I don't know if I have videos on it, but I've used BricsForge AI a little bit. Again, I don't. It's very limited. But then, yeah, Relume is great for sitemaps, right? I've used ZipWP, which has a kind of Relume type interface and a bunch of AI capabilities, which is, we can get more into that later. And then Pinegrow. Pinegrow's got that really cool AI feature where you can talk directly into your mic or type to it, and it'll build actual structures. It'll build grids. It'll build cards. It'll add BEM classes. It'll do a lot. I integrated ACSS with it, so it'll use the variables there to build with. So, I mean, like that blew me away pretty much when I saw that. And I really hope that the web is going towards something like that. That's, you could just talk to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like minor experience. I think Jet Engine actually has like an AI query builder. So you can like kind of just say, basically describe the query that you want. And then if you have to write a custom, it'll kind of like help you do that. A little bit of experience with that. I know before I left Elementor, they have like AI building there now, which is just interesting to see. Obviously, AI is kind of like, as we were talking about earlier, a little bit of a buzzword in certain cases. But in a lot of cases, like kind of what we're going to talk about here and what Max is going to show us, I mean, like my biggest question is, and I think probably most people that watch this is like, am I doing way more work than I have to manually right now to get the same level of output that I could get like with AI? Like if like as a business, just as a business question, pure business question, it's like, why would I do extra manual work if I didn't have to? Or why is there any way to increase efficiency? That's the angle that I'm looking at it from. And like Max, like as an example, when we were doing the last bridge builders, and then you posted like kind of the whole postmark site that you said Claude created. I mean, like that to me is just, that blows me away. So I'm really interested to see like the implementation of all the stuff that we've been talking about and that you've been shown, because I feel like it's like either really easy, like it's just, I'm just interested to see how you actually do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me share my screen again. Just I should really have a second monitor, so I don't have to always go through this infinite loop here.
Okay.
So, well, I'm not in an office. I'm just home. Okay, this is an interesting moment to kind of talk about the different endpoints we have for AI these days. So I took OpenAI in this
We're
case,
still
but
seeing
when
the,
we
Yeah. Right now we're
oh
seeing an endless mirror.
yeah,
oh, do
wrong
you
tab.
see it now?
Nope.
Oh,
Maybe
I
different.
thought I'm sharing my whole screen. I'm just sharing then my tab or what's going on here. Oh no, I got it. I always went for the wrong one. Now I'm sharing my whole screen.
There you go.
Perfect.
There we
Yep.
go. There we go.
Very nice.
Okay, that's not going to happen again. So what I'm showing here is just like a chart, and I wanted to show this one because it's kind of important, because there is you have to kind of talk about where do we have AI, and if we are honest, the big models, we are currently living in a server client era, like in the 60s when everybody had to connect with a terminal to the mainframe in the university. We're kind of living in this era now for for AI, and the open in AI stands for open access. They made that very clear, not open source. They're not giving out any details how the model works. They don't give out source code, but you have different endpoints where you can kind of attach to. And let me just open my cursors. So we have this big base model running on a server. And then now everybody knows ChatGPT, but it started all with OpenAI Playground, what I was talking about a couple of years ago. There was no ChatGPT. And then the next thing that came was an API. So, and then finally they brought out their own product. And this is kind of what that's the main client-facing modality now these days. What I started here, I can show that for a second. This is very popular now for developers. So you are talking about all those integrations we're kind of seeing in the WordPress ecosystem, and they all are running through the OpenAI API. Mostly, there are other APIs now these days too. Claude also has an API. And let's say we have Cadence AI, Advanced Schema AI. We have all those different AI implementations, and they kind of work on top, piggyback on this kind of API. And there are two modalities they usually implement by. The one is they bring your own key. So you have a contract with OpenAI, and you kind of create your own API key, and then you use this tool, you input your key, and then this whole connection to OpenAI kind of works through your key and your billing. And there are some others, like I guess Cadence, they do have they have a contract with OpenAI. They provide you this kind of connection to the model, and they give you credits, and you can buy more credits. So you have a billing connection to this provider here. And why I'm bringing up this kind of layer is there are a lot of tools regurgitating basic stuff you can these days also just get by using ChatGPT and doing a little bit of copy paste. There are some tools that actually really use the opportunities you get by using an API. And we're going to get into that for a second. And it's called function calling, or they have like a little bit of prompt engineering going on to really make the model fit the tool it's supposed to help you with. Because ChatGPT is pretty general purpose. And after a while, ChatGPT itself also got into the game of having specialized GPTs. They're called GPTs, and you can kind of put a little context into them and have them preloaded with some knowledge. Basically, those people going through the APIs have done that previously. Before there were GPTs, they kind of, with every request, they gave the AI in the background, how would you call it, some instructions, prompt engineering it was called. And this kind of technique is getting less and less because the models are getting better and better. You have to do less and less kind of engineering of the prompts, and especially since there has been a recent development, well, it's not that recent, but there has been this rollout by OpenAI called function calling. And since then, you don't have to do that much prompt engineering anymore. And I just want to show you quickly what I mean by function calling. This is this kind of idea that you have. Let's say we take VS Form. It's running on a WordPress server, and it has different kinds of functions it could kind of call. It could add a form field, it could add form fields, it could add entries into the database. And now you kind of describe all the forms, all the functions you have, and what parameters they can have, and how they can be called. You all put that into a kind of JSON file, not kind of JSON, a JSON file, and you send the whole thing to OpenAI. And now the model itself has the possibility to call those functions. It doesn't call them directly, but it knows about those functions. So it could comprise a response like, please first call add forms and put in those parameters. After that, call add entry into database, and with that, it gives you back this call stack. And you now, as VS Form, could kind of say, okay, I have to clean it up a little bit, or I just execute it. So you're giving direct execution in the software you're using. So this is the next kind of powerful level they put out. I don't see that much integrations of that. I think Daniel, he integrated this kind of function calling. Why do I get into function calling? Because there's also a lot of grift going on these days. Everybody comes out with a third-party integration on OpenAI's API and tells you they have implemented AI now. But are they really? Or is just passing it along to OpenAI, and you could do the same with ChatGPT? I must say I've cancelled quite some of those third-party tools these days, because it's a lot of money you're paying for stuff you're already getting with your subscription you already have, like for ChatGPT or Claude. But I'm totally open if somebody does it right, and I think VS Form is one of them that does it pretty well. Advanced Schema is more on the tool side. I get it why they're doing it, because not everybody has ChatGPT, and it's better to have the tools than not to have the tools. But I'm really still waiting for some really good integrations on that. Yeah.
And I'll add
Just
something really
journal
quick
here.
here about the OpenAI API key is that for a lot of people are really intimidated by APIs. It's not that hard to set up. You just get a key and you just enter it in whatever tool. It depends on the setup, but don't be afraid of it because you can go use it and it's pennies to use, right? So you can integrate that into your
Yeah,
stuff, and it's like,
totally.
I mean, some of the models are a little more expensive, but like you don't have to pay that uh, Chat GPT subscription to get the OpenAI API key. So I just want people to know that, and it's not that complicated. Just do it step by step, and you'll see the benefits.
And there are two things to say about the API key if you have never used it. So basically, you go into your backend and you create a new API key. I probably could show that once. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
My complete.
Don't leak your main key.
No, I don't mean. Anyway, you can't do that easy these days.
Good.
So let me go here. So this is the back end of we just saw, let me just show you again where we are. We are currently in this area here. So we have ChatGPT, that's a product. Everybody knows that one, or lots of people know that one. This is the playground that was published before ChatGPT, where developers went to use the AI for day-to-day, like in ChatGPT, or to set up or test OpenAI API stuff. So this is basically the old interface OpenAI had. They modernized it a little bit, and they all started out with this playground. And just let me refresh this here just a second. Yeah. So you have this area API keys, and two things you can say about this. When you create a new secret key, you will give your key a name these days, and then you can create a secret key. It will only be displayed to you once. So if you have a password manager, kind of transfer it over because you will never be able to retrieve it again. It's a security measure. And then you kind of can delete it here, and you can also, that's, so even if I would leak a key now, I could just delete it here. So I created a key today, and if after use, I don't want to have people, even if I leaked it by accident, I could just delete it again. So don't be too cautious if you have temporary keys. Or if you think you have like multiple tools, like again, when you use tools like VS Form AI, Cadence, some other AI, Advanced SEMA, you can create a key for that purpose only. And then if you're ever in doubt that this key is maybe circulating or it got out of your hands, or you don't trust the developer, or that he maybe has transferred it in the background or whatever, you can retract the key. I just wanted to get into that for a second.
I think it's useful to see because I think a lot of people are intimidated by API. I mean, I certainly was, but I'm glad you're showing it.
It's just a long key, and then you just paste it, and then you can just, it's like a license number, and many people know this kind of licensing because they use, let's say, a backup plugin, and then you can create a backup sub key for every site you use a backup plugin on, stuff like that. While we're here, this is the funny thing. I could maybe show it for a sec. Let me start off with a playground example. So back in the day when we started with AI, there was no chat, but there was this, I forgot his name. This something Allen. It's a doctorate from Australia or New Zealand, and he did Alita. I think it's called Alita. He was doing the first kind of interactions with talking to an AI. I really found that fascinating. And what we basically had back then is you have this big text box and it can do anything. It's basically just a completion. It just does inference for the maximum length you kind of set up here. And so if you wanted to do chat back then, you kind of went, you are the computer from the movie 2001. You are called Hell. Please impersonate the computer as best as you can. I'm Dave, and I'm currently outside with my pod and trying to get back in. We are communicating over the communication channel. Dave, that's me. I'm starting this. Hello, Hell, are you there? And then I say Hell, and so he has to now complete this sentence. So a little bit like what I was saying before, the AI had to complete who is the murderer. And what you did in those days, you went here and you said, because let me show you first what happens if you don't do it. You don't add a stop sentence. You just, okay. So as you can see, I put a maximum length here pretty high, and it's just going on and doing it, completing this monologue, kind of doing it with it's talking with itself. So it's going hell, Dave, hell, Dave, hell, Dave, and you kind of you wanted to get in there, you wanted to have fun as well. So what did you do back then? You kind of started here, and then you said, okay, this is my stop token. No, this is my stop token, Dave. So when Dave is produced, I want to be able to input something. So you said, this is my stop token here. And then you said, okay, this is hell. No, and Dave again. Let me see. I don't want to get too deep in that. Restart here, and then we just put it. So and what happened now is that you kind of said, okay, hello. It said, yes, Dave, I'm here, constantly monitoring and processing information. And now it stopped because it has the stop token. The generation wouldn't be talking to itself anymore. Now you have the moment you can say, oh, please let me in, And it kind of now go on to talk. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. I've been instructed to open the door only to authorized personnel. So you kind of see where how this was done before we had chat. And as you can see down here, it says completion models are now considered legacy because they saw that this chat interface is so powerful. People get it. This has become the new norm. And also, you don't have to do so much setup here anymore. And yeah, the iterative process of talking with the machine is kind of what we got into as the new default. What I wanted to show with this, showing this whole playground experiment I just did, was you kind of see how the machine is talking to itself. And you see how kind of you are you're not relevant for the whole conversation in a way, because it's totally happy completing itself. And that's what gave me also really the insight that this is not a creature, it is a tool, because we are actually tacking on the creature on top of it by doing stuff like that. But I don't want to also diminish the future of this kind of technology, because let me just stop with this. There is so much potential where it goes, and in the complexities of those networks, we never know where they get. And our consciousness is also a kind of network in a sense. I don't want to get too philosophical here, but for me, it kind of put the tool into the tool category really hard when I saw that back in the day. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you showed 2001 Space Odyssey, because that famously ends really well with the computers, right?
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, there was also this famous image back then when we had this. There's this series, I forgot the name. You had this big monster, all this slurped up internet with all its. It was depicted as it was on Reddit, I think. It was all the junk you find in the internet, and then somebody tagged on a little human face, and somebody's sitting in front and talking to that human face. That was in the beginning kind of an image we had from circulating around the topic of AI, and it's still kind of true. But we're doing a lot of reinforcement through humans these days, because all the conversations you're having with it are being used for training the interface you're having with the AI. Yeah. Okay. Down a little rabbit hole here. So how should we proceed?
Define Claude.
Define Claude.
Seriously, I might be one of the last. I might be really late to the party. Just as Jeff is late to the party. Hey,
Yeah.
Jeff.
I was gonna say, maybe it's
Thanks for
worthwhile
being here, Jeff.
going through some of the models that are, because
Thanks for
people know
popping in.
about GPT, but there's
It's
bunch
a
of other
model.
stuff now, right?
Sorry?
I was saying there's a bunch of other models out there that some are better than others, and I don't know if that's worth going into, or
Right.
I don't really know much about it.
I've heard Claude mentioned a lot, and it
That's
is
Google?
a model.
Who owns Claude? I don't know who makes it.
Okay, so Claude is basically, you had OpenAI and they kind of got the ball rolling with GPT-2, and after that GPT-3. And in the one of the leads on GPT-3 kind of split away from OpenAI with his wife, I think, or his sister, or one of them, family for sure. And they kind of founded Anthropic. That's
Okay.
another company, and that company basically had the goal to make it more secure because they already saw, as I was saying, this meme with the monster and all that kind of discussion around what could AI be and how unsecure can it be, and they were going really hard on the reinforcement of to make it secure and ethical, and that's why I really didn't like the first models they came out with, Claude 1 and 2. It was horrible. A part of being only accessible through a VPN in the beginning because they didn't release it worldwide. I mean, I think 2 was the first one they released. And Claude 3 just came out like a half a year ago or a little more. And now just recently what got the internet talking is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And it's just also the middle model. It's not even the biggest one they have. The biggest one is about to hit the market. I'm not sure when, but it's still coming. And it's better than GPT-4, I have to say. And I kind of found myself using it more and more. And it also gave me a little pause to think about it because you kind of put OpenAI on a pedestal because they're like the only ones having this really intelligent system. Then you see how fast you kind of abandon them when there is a better offering. And I didn't quit GPT because I have a lot of things there. I have GPTs, custom ones, but Claude for sure is a new development, and I can only say use it. It's great. I have now both subscriptions running. Why not? As a tool, I would suggest having a look.
When you say 3.5 and like the newer version of Claude, the newer model is better than GPT-4, what like I think one of the most confusing things right now is like we kind of like everybody at this point I feel like has used maybe the GPT app or the website or whatever, and they kind of like get the idea of like what it can do like at the super like basic level. But when you say better, you're somebody that's in this every day doing complex stuff. So can you define better? And is there a reason to, is it like if you pop down at your computer and you're ready to do some work, is there a reason you're going to GPT versus going to Claude, or like, like what, like the difference in those tools? And then obviously we could extrapolate that out to other tools as well, but just those two as the big heavy hitters.
Well, there's this concept of they train those models on those big mainframes, and they can sometimes like in a winery they can stop the training run and talk to the model a little bit to the raw model. And sure, those models get better and better the longer you refine them and the more data you put in, and maybe also techniques you use to refine it. And they don't share the secrets how they do it. When I say it's better, I found it to output better quality code, get things much quicker. Because as we were talking about before, the context is totally important. And I showed this self-attention mechanism with all the arrows pointing to the tokens that are already in the context and in the network. Is the longer you talk to the network, the more context it gets, the more files you paste into the context, the better it understands what you're getting at. And this kind of, I see that just Claude, for instance, is pretty quick to pick up on what you actually want. You don't have to go that much back and forth. So you still have to iterate over what you actually want to do, but it's quicker. That's my gut feeling, and a lot of people agree. And there's another nice thing about Claude. I mean, why not share the screen? We can just go into it.
Yeah.
Let me share my entire screen. So, hello, Claude. There we are. The new thing that Claude now did is that you get a topic called artifacts. It's called this feature is called artifacts, and what it does is basically gives you a direct feedback of what you're actually asking of Claude in certain kind of file types: Markdown, HTML, JavaScript, and with the old ChatGPT, you're kind of used to that. Not the old one, just with ChatGPT, you're used to having it all in the same chat. And just to demonstrate, you could kind of. I'm going to use my voice now because I don't like typing, and I'm going to. So what can we do? Let's do a web page. Okay, I have to talk for a second. Hey, Claude, could you please create a HTML one-pager? Let's do a shop, a fish shop. Come up with some funny name for the shop. We're gonna have a hero section on the top. Put some fish in there, also a headline and a little tagline. And keep in mind it should be funny. And in the background, in the hero section, we would probably want to have something like some fish swimming around. Use emojis for that because we can't do any graphics here. And below that, create another section with a little bit introduction to columns and come up with why we opened the shop and talk a lot about clownfish, I guess. Yeah. Okay, and then put a footer on the bottom. Maybe use the BEM methodology for all that, and yeah, let's go. So now it's transcribing my request to Claude, and now we have all this here, and we can just send it to Claude, and Claude will start generating all that.
Wow.
So there's no voice output, but now you can see on the right side, it's basically starting to write the HTML here. It certainly didn't go for the BEM. The BEM, it didn't transcribe that right. Okay, either way. So now we have like a little web page. And I mean, you saw it was like live on the air, and it still doesn't look that good. But I mean, this is where you kind of get into iterative development now. And you could kind of just get in here and start the whole recording thing again. Hey, Claude, that was kind of good. I'm still missing a header with the business name, and we also have to have a navigation that navigates to the sections because we have a one-pager. I don't like having two headlines in the section where we are talking about why not just where we're introducing the shop. Also, I saw that the fishes that are swimming through the header, they are all doing the same animation. I don't like that. They should maybe swim on a sinus wave or something, going up and down a little bit, also stagger them a little bit, and also vary the size a little bit. And please tone down the blues and use different blue hues.
This is nuts.
And then you can kind of go in here, and you could also just say BEM, use the BEM methodology. Oh, okay. I wrote it wrong, but it's going to get it. It's very. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it's starting to use BEM. You see.
Is it redoing the whole, like, is it rewriting the program every time, or does it have the knowledge base to like pick out certain? Obviously, this time we had to do with BEM, but like, I mean, can it take what you had and okay. I mean, I guess that was pretty similar to what we had
perfect.
before.
I mean, and it still didn't get the fishes right. I would probably now tell it to use a canvas object and render the fishes in there and do it differently. But overall,
I have a quick question with that too, actually, because you gave that command about the fish towards the end, and at least with Pine Girl, I've noticed that if my voice commands go on too long, the end of it gets kind of a little less accurate. Do you notice that with this, or is that?
No, actually not that much. And this is actually a known topic. It's let me just stop sharing here. This is called needle in a haystack. So they basically train the models and look if they hide a word somewhere in an instruction and try to see if you can retrieve that information. And Claude is pretty good over the needle in the haystack test, and it has a pretty big context. So the other day when you were doing the post-mark episode, what I did, I would just screenshot the whole thing. And then you can also now, with these modern models, they're multimodal. So before we were talking about they've only been trained on text, but now in the future they have a model that has been trained on images and voice, or not voice, sound in general. So they the semantic self-attention network and the connections they have between words and different things. It's not just words anymore. They can have a semantic connection between a word and the sound of the word, or a word and the image of a word. So it's going to get pretty crazy pretty soon, and you can already drop in images into the chats. The voice mode from OpenAI that actually is multimodal hasn't been released yet. It's still a separate model transcribing in the background and a separate model generating the voice. So that's not really what the model is actually capable of. I think they are still running into compute issues, rolling that out to millions of people. And Claude 3.5 is also multimodal. It's pretty good at images. It's not perfect. I mean, we are early days. I mean, we were talking 2 years ago. We were doing. That's why we're having this episode. We say we're 90% fucked. I can use that word now. We're over the 30 seconds. I mean, I'm just saying that this technology shouldn't be underestimated, even though there isn't hype, especially newcomers overhype it because they don't understand it. They just go in and they say one thing and it doesn't output right away what they want, and they say, oh, that's garbage. But you have to go in there iterative. You have to fill up the context as much as you can. So like say, you want to do something specific in Bricks, you have to put in documentation or example files. Probably the output is going to be much, much better. And there is much more coming. I mean, it's just developing so quick. And I'm not saying, that's why I'm rather on the down what the hype is about, but I'm totally seeing the potential and I'm using that potential for myself. And there are things like, especially like with Kevin Geary, he has this nice frame stuff and all that kind of, there's also different kinds of libraries for Bricks Builder. If a good trained human that knows its tools can be much quicker than the AI. But where do I use AI? I get blueprints out of it. I learn new stuff. I have little problems. I get them solved, or I just discuss them. And this is where the disclaimer comes in for development. We talked about the temperature setting that is behind the scenes that you don't even see, and the topic of hallucinations. There is a potential for generations that are bad. You just have to say it that way. And so the models are getting better. That is going down. And at the end of the year, they're going to come back up, I guess, with reasoning. It's going to get even less prone to errors. But I always would say, look at what the model generates. Don't just use it in a production site for at least. You still have to be able to understand what the model is outputting for you. And yeah, we are in the era of the co-pilot.
Okay.
For sure.
That kind of brings me back a little bit because I'm still trying to understand, like, all you did so far, like showing off Claude, like you gave it a voice prompt. It is impressive. You tell it what you want it to do, and it builds you this basic website. And just the fact that this just happened is fantastic. Still, I mean, then I'm wondering, is me as a Bricks user or as a page builder, like let's say I use any other page builder, Oxygen or Beaver Builder or whatnot, that part is still me, right? Like it builds me a website, then I have that on my screen, but now I still need to build it in Bricks, right? There's no way of telling Claude or any AI, build me a website in Bricks. And also this leads me right to Dave's question here. How good are AI tools in generating semantic and accessible HTML? Like whatever this AI tool creates for me, I understand is just sort of like a jumping off point. Like it's an inspiration, right? It gives me something to get me started, but then I'm still the guy doing the actual turning this into a finished product. Or am I overlooking something here? And again, that's Dave's question here. Do they put out any semantic and accessible HTML?
Sure, if you prompt it. You have to kind of consider that what have those models been trained on. And the biggest data that has been put into that is text, obviously, because they started with that modality. But behind text followed really closely is HTML, because I mean the whole web they ingested has HTML in it, Markdown, all those kind of really big JSON. They can write all those kind of semantic HTML. Even that they can do that because they have read a lot of semantic HTML. They have ingested all of GitHub, or a lot of it. And well, it's not disclosed what they have done, and even further with the new modalities, it's not disclosed what they have trained on. But for sure, they have trained on much of human knowledge, and including semantic HTML. And if you really prompt it to do that, it will do it. And just to say, my disclaimer was, as a starting off point, was just to make clear that oftentimes I just take what I just skim over it. I see that there's nothing in there that's too bad. I just drop it in. Why not? But I have skimmed over it, and I just want to make that clear because I don't want to propagate. I'm not on the hype train that says just use it, whatever. But there is potential for, as you have seen with the artifacts feature, and that's what I really like about this new development is. People that, for non-coders, and there are some in the community of bricks and builders, that's why they use builders, I guess, and not always, but there are certain things that graphical user interface is good for, but sometimes you also have people that really don't want to touch the code, maybe more also on builders like Elementor and others that are really not focused on or even Gutenberg. There is a big potential for those kind of non-coder people to now have a direct feedback what they're talking about. It's programming, it's showing the code, and they're not kind of discouraged. They can see, okay, that's kind of close to what I wanted. And sometimes, I mean, not in all settings, that is maybe sufficient. And if the AI potentially gets more smart and smarter and smarter, it's going to surpass a lot of people. They couldn't have never even programmed that if they would try to. Mm-hmm. So, and then if you go further, it's going to probably surpass us one day. That's why we say, okay, but for mostly we're still in the driver's seat. And as you said, we have to kind of copy paste the stuff from the tool over to Bricks, or we have to look, how do I implement it? Why? Because Bricks is very close to code, but it isn't code. There is a visual and a graphical and a layer between you and the actual code it outputs. So we are still in a text-based era of those intelligences, and we're slowly getting to a era where they can probably be click buttons in the future. And for now, we are limited to that function calling, and then it's really a thing of how good is a tool implemented, what I was showing before on the API as a sub-tool doing function calling.
Jennifer's left a couple comments here, and I like this one. It's like all AI output. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you may end up with shoddy code that works. And Claude likes to feed you what you like too, even if it may be wrong. So
yeah,
you're still in the driver's seat at this point in time, right?
Yeah, I think Microsoft put it best when they pressed hard for the brand Copilot. I think that's a really good term, and we should kind of keep that in mind. It's just a Copilot, not the pilot.
Yeah. But and that goes back to like something Mark mentioned earlier, like when you output the thing from Claude, like does it have to output it the whole thing every time? And I think when we get some AI capabilities, even in Bricks potentially, but like in Pinegrove, for instance, you can say, I only want it to do this one section. Or you can, you can isolate,
let me show you that.
Isolate little parts of it, right? So you don't have to output the whole thing every time, and it draws in the context from the stuff around it.
So I saw that you did a video on that. That's completely correct. So this is kind of an integration of what I was talking about. They have function calling. So this is the kind of AI I would like to see more in builders, because builders have an abstraction because they have the graphical user interface. So you basically give them context by pointing at something. So now if I have this section here, or let's say whatever, I just take this section here, and then I can kind of, it knows now that I'm actually, I'm referencing this code here. It's going to put that code in behind the scenes into the prompt I'm now sending. So let's go back here and say, oh, I have to order this. Please make that section centered and the button blue. Okay, I was recording more. So now we can just send this up here. It's going to be contacting the OpenAI API in the background. And now it didn't do the blue button, as you can see, but it still gave it the context. And it's not perfect, especially with GPT. And it rewrote the code, and only the code of this section. So basically, that's something that we could have in Bricks, where you point at something, it generates, it extracts the HTML, sends it to, or even the JSON object, the JSON representation of that Bricks section, sends it back to OpenAI, changes some parameters around, sends it back, and replaces it. And you can just undo it if you don't like it, or you can follow up, because now it didn't do the button blue. I just could put the button into context, and then I could follow up with, no, please make that button blue. It has to also say register now, or there will be no places left. So now you can just.
Of course, it doesn't want to. It's got stage fright.
Yeah, it doesn't do it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not really big. Yeah, I'm not a real big user here for this kind of thing. Also, they have a little more options here. You can just say just chatting, please give me CSS rules, generate a whole page. So they have like prompt engineering going on in the background.
And then show, if you could really quick, that first tab there that says, because you can have it say, oh, I want to only do the layout or only the content.
Yeah.
And then you can,
so this one here.
So you have some options there. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. I could see this coming to other builders.
Yeah, there's also another example.
Idea for you.
Oh yeah, Maxime, yeah, that would be good. So this is one way. This is the first one I saw this way. So I just wanted to doing it this way. It's from Vercel. It's called V0, and you could basically say, create a section with articles, and well, let's see. Why am I typing, actually? Okay, this should be all over the place. Please create a section with a big article with a headline and an excerpt. Beside that, we have another column with 4 articles in a grid. And they also have little excerpts and a headline. The topic is, again, we're talking about a fish shop. So again, we can just let that run for a moment, and it's going to kind of generate that stuff. And I see this kind of approach coming to builders. Why not?
Wow.
I'm curious, Mark. What are you thinking? Because I know you're a big fan of the voice memos. You don't like typing.
Yeah, I'm loving that. I got to download whatever Max got going on there, so I can just do that everywhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna admit I'm a little lost as to which tool we're using now and the one we were using before. I didn't want to interrupt there, but this is called V0.
This is V0. It's from Vercel. They do a lot of code hosting, and they also offer this tool. I don't think it's 100% related to Bricks, because it basically uses, if you go to the code section, you'll see it does output React. You can go over here and you can go over to plain HTML, but then again, you see it's outputting Tailwind. So I don't think many people like Tailwind in the Bricks community, but there is a bunch of people that use it. Probably you could use Winden or something to import this kind of stuff directly into your build if you want to use it. But I just wanted to show it off because it was the tool I saw the first time doing this, actually pointing at something, and then you can, work with it. So that's why I kind of wanted to show this.
Yeah. Okay. So meanwhile, in the chat, we've got Maxime paying attention, which is good. He's taking notes. Welcome, Maxime. Thanks for being here. And also, you have some feedback from one viewer, which I thought was very valuable. He says, Max seems to be a cool guy. With his awesome accent, it's like I'm listening to the Terminator giving a lecture about AI. I think that's great. That's a great one. I think we've come full circle here.
Just to answer your question, what the second tool was, this was PineGrow. And that's a builder in the space. this is Pangra we are looking at now. It has a history. It comes from a time where skinning your WordPress installation was basically writing a theme. A lot of people didn't want to do that, so they came up with a builder in sorts that could build themes. And a lot of people currently using builders, they are used to having a builder that actually always runs in the background. And this one basically builds a theme for you. You can export the theme, and then you're done. You can deinstall the whole PineGrow installation. Even when they started out, they have, or they still have it, offline builder, much like Dreamweaver back in the day. You build your theme, you upload it to your WordPress installation, and you're done. So no big complexity there. They recently came out with a block builder as well and I think something else. WordPress plugin. They even have a WordPress plugin these days.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like it because it's pretty complex, because it's really, really, really close to web technology, and but the UI is a little overwhelming. I have to admit.
I mean, what I'm seeing is a professional, like just Googling it, a professional visual editor for CSS, Grid, Bootstrap, Tailwind CSS, and responsive design. So these are all, let me just, like, from the perspective of a Bricks fanboy, these tools kind of, like, you either use PineGrow or you use Bricks, right? Or am I missing something here?
Yeah,
like it's either or,
you
right?
can.
Like those are
No, not really, because you have a blocks builder also. But yeah, mainly yes, because you're building a theme, and Bricks is a theme, so you're kind of interfering. That wouldn't work. But what you can do, since they released the block builder, you can create blocks for Gutenberg, and then you just publish them, and they get wrapped into a plugin. Then you can deinstall PineGrow again, or you can just use the offline version of it.
Got it.
And you got new Gutenberg plugins. But I was using it for that case mainly. And in the old days, I did even also some themes with it. But what I'm doing now is using Gutenbricks, this new plugin, and it's all one ecosystem. So I'm not using PineGrow that much anymore, but I still think it was cool. And I saw that Brandon was exploring it a little bit, so I threw it in here. It has an AI integration along the lines of V0 Vercel. So I thought, why not show it?
How do you, I know we talked about this before. How often are you creating Bricks custom elements at this point? Like, you're doing that a lot too, or no? Because you're using the blocks?
Well, yeah, I did some. I also wanted to show that actually. Let me have a look. You can use AI for that kind of task. So I'm going to share my screen again. Just give me a second. So I'm on Insta WP here. So I'm just going to show quickly what. Okay, so what you see here is basically, this is a Bricks element, and I just made it yesterday, just to show off that you can do it really quickly. I didn't want to code a Bricks element live on the stream, but we could do that. This is a technology called Spline. You can do 3D, it's pretty nice. Has a little web interface, and you can even do interactions, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to have that in Bricks, you could just use a code element and pop stuff in. And I just thought, why not just have a Bricks element? And this was written by Claude. I had to do a little bit of cleanup, a little bit. That's why I say you're the co-pilot. But it basically wrote all this. Claude did this in one go. I had to kind of iterate a little bit over it. And how does it know about all this kind of syntax here? I just pasted it all into the context. Let me have a look if I can still find where I put it.
I think maybe
I'm
6.
not seeing it.
Right there.
Yeah, that's probably. No, that was just a reminder that I have to talk about Bricks when I start off. I think it's here. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So
Okay.
you have the Bricks Academy, and then I just took this article here, just kind of went copy paste, and just put it into
Oh my
Claude
gosh.
context,
Wow.
and then it knew how to write Bricks elements. Sure, a lot of errors. The more context you give it, the better.
So behind the scenes there, though, let's understand what's happening there. I'm gonna I think I know, and you can correct me. So effectively, what's happening is like, you're using Claude in that case. So it's a large language model. It's gone out there and it has scraped the web for all sorts of stuff. But obviously, it's not going to get everything. It's going to get like probably the things they're training it on, like the things that are the most useful for the most amount of
Yeah.
people. So it has a lot of that knowledge, like basic HTML, CSS, all that sort of stuff. But if you have a specific use case application that you want to do it for, you have to kind of train it even further with the maybe a prompt or what have you. So that's what you did there. Like you basically gave it a little bit more knowledge, and you said, hey, use what you know and this knowledge that is specific to this application and create XYZ in this case.
Yeah, that's what I did. So this is called in-context learning, and the models are getting better and better. I don't like that model that much, but Google just went bonkers with that because the context window for the latest model, Gemini 1.5, I think, is 2 million tokens. That's it's 20 Moby Dicks or something like that. You can just paste so much stuff in there. Claude has, I think, 200,000 tokens. You could say roughly a token is half a word, or sometimes a word if it's a small word. Or in the multimodal sense, it's hard to say what a token is, but it's a patch of an image or whatever. And you can paste quite a lot. So if that's what I wanted to show also, maybe if we still have time, I mean, we're already going long here. We can also keep that for another episode. Yeah, if you're good, then we can show that. What I did in some cases, let me bring up the terminal. So what I did is, let's say we have, what did I do? Where did I put that? Thought I had it here somewhere. Our full project tab here. So we have the full source of bricks here, or we have the full source of 2024 here. So that's a bunch of files, and I think those web interfaces currently have a limit on how much stuff that you can stuff into that. They don't have a limit on tokens, but they have a limit on individual files you can just upload. So I sometimes do this little trick that I wrote this little shell script that basically just goes over the root directory and slurps in all the files, JS, CSS, JSON, HTML. Again, this whole thing was written by Claude. No, it was written by GPT in that case. I just instructed it what I wanted to have this thing do. And so don't think you have to know shell script for that. I'm using the terminal much more since GPT is helping me with the terminal. But anyway, you have to do a little bit terminal work when you do full stack development. Either way, what I wanted to show is that you can. Yeah, I'm just showing this. So what you're doing here is I'm gathering all the files from 2024 and putting them into a text file. I just run this really quick, and it also copies it to the clipboard, as you can see here. Copy to clipboard, and then you can just head over to Claude. I have to go to the browser again. You can start a new chat, and you just paste this. And Claude has this nice interface that it takes all what you have pasted now in this big file. It contains all my information. Then you can ask questions about it. So where are colors defined in the theme? This is a stupid question now. But you can kind of talk with your code base now.
No, that's very useful. I don't think I've seen this quite in action this way. This is really cool.
So now it says you can see all here. You see what it tells you where the scene in scene JSON. It tells you what colors are already defined. It gives you an example how to add your own colors. You could even say, okay, add a new color theme based on 80s whatever synth pop. So it will now try to generate, certainly, and it just goes ahead and writes a new color theme here for you.
Neon sunset. Let's go. Retro wave. Yes.
So now,
love it.
And you could kind of just copy and paste that in there. It even gives you some font suggestions here, as you can see. It's funny. And that's why I say you have to be a co-pilot. In this case, now it's just an incomplete JSON snippet, and you would now have to know where to put it, how to put it there. It gives you some instructions. You could even ask it further, how do I integrate that now? And so, yeah, you're gonna copy this, and then you go back to your code base, and you kind of integrate that stuff. So that's where you come in as an arbitrator, as somebody that does it for. Yeah, you have to.
I guess what I'm still seeing is that like you make it look so easy, right? You have years of experience of doing like you know what to ask it, right? So are we going to be in a world where we go back to the the no code people that use builders? Is this going to be more integrated in a way that they're not having to go run bash commands and grab all the text from text files? Is that happening?
That's certainly happening. And let me just close this down here. And what's happening now is that we have builders. No, you have code. First of all, you have developments like in VS Code. You have Copilot. It's actually called Copilot. It's basically code completion, but you can also talk to it. Sometimes when I'm writing in Copilot, maybe I can actually show it again. Do you know Copilot? Mm-hmm. Some of you probably have used it.
I've heard.
I have not used it. I've just watched people use it.
Okay.
I've heard about it.
Yeah. So basically, you have Copilot running down here. So you see this little symbol here, and you have also a little symbol there. And while you're typing, it doesn't know the context of this file now because it's just untitled. You would save this somewhere, and let's see, where can we put this? Just HTML. So now it knows it's an HTML file, and when you could kind of start writing in context. Let's say we have a script tag, and we are in here, and you could just say write a function that fires on document load and makes the page blue. So, okay, it's again, it's not doing what I want. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now it has completed it. It works much better if it has a larger context. So if there's already a page and you're working on it, it sees the rest of the code on the page, it knows the style it has to code in. So this is kind of a Copilot. You're writing in code, you're getting completions. That's one approach for people that are starting out. But if you talk about pure non-coder people, I see a future where we'll see this more like with the V0 or with the Pinegrow example, where you kind of you point at something, you just tell it what you want to do with it. You just tell it what to do with it. Just to answer your question. And the voice interface, as you saw, I still have that tagged on, but it's going to get more prevalent, especially when voice mode is coming out, emotional voice. They even can contextualize your tonation. So if it hears that you're getting frustrated with it, it will react differently than if you're like in a happy mood. So this is also coming. So,
I'm kind of imagining having the client call and just having that thing run while they talk and have it build the website that they describe and see if it's good or bad. I don't know.
It's probably going to
real
have
bad.
the client's dog.
The logo is going to be real big, I think.
I thought that also. I thought the future where that's going to happen.
We're not that far off. I mean, we have the voice assistive technology right there is like it's going to get better, as you say, with like emotional context and emphasizing things. And
I don't know. I mean, my main concern still remains if I have if there's a future where AI builds a website for me. Like there's two main concerns. I always feel like as a human, I have a unique set of creative skills that AI won't replace. At least that's kind of what I think, but I might be wrong. Is it like it's gonna sort of lack soul and personality? And the other thing is I'm wondering if even if it looks nice, is it going to be shitty code under the hood?
Mm.
But yeah, we kind of touched on that question already. It's just not, I don't know, it's probably just a gut feeling that's still there.
Well, and that gets back to like what Dave Den was saying in the chat, where he was asking about accessibility. Like I see that as a really good use case for AI. I would love to get, I mean, not that I don't want to do accessibility, but it's like, it's a very technical thing. It uses the context of the elements that are around it to create the accessible structure. Like it seems to me like that would be a really good use case of AI.
So when you're using Claude, are you using the Pro version, or is everybody just using the free version? I'm guessing you guys have Pro plans.
I got a Pro plan, but what the recent push in those big models, those centralized models, are that you get the best model. I think OpenAI kind of did that, was releasing GPT 4.0 to
4.0,
everybody.
that's free, right?
That's free, but what is limited is the amount of questions you can ask. So and some pro features. And Claude is doing a similar thing. It's giving out its newest model, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, but it's really limited. And then if you want to follow up, it's going to be like after 5-10 questions, they're going to ask you to sign up. But for me, it's totally worth it. And I mean, what are we talking about? 40 euros? If you live in a country where there are countries where that is a lot of money, if you have to, I mean, 40 euros if you have both plans, if you have GPT and you have Claude. If you have only one of them, it's around 20, I think. And I also, in my case, I booked the Teams plan for GPT because I have to pay for twice as much, but you get the privacy shield. They don't use your data to train on it. So if you put sensitive client information there, it will never end up in training data. At least that's what they say.
Brandon fell asleep.
Yeah.
He's gone. What was the other thing I wanted to ask? Oh, well, I can get to that in a moment. I guess like we're first of all, we still have strong viewership. We've always had between 10 and 15 people here, and we're still at 13. So from the beginning, still strong viewership. As far as I'm concerned, I can do another 15, 20 minutes easily if you guys are down.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Daniel. Any opinions on the GitHub Copilot individual plan versus Source Graph Cody Pro? I'm just reading words at this point. I'm just repeating words that I see on the screen. So you guys answer that question at your leisure.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Deferring to Max.
So, okay. So when we're talking about this, let me just go. Just let me go again full screen. And we were looking at some of the pages we did. We did this fish website, and I'm live. Let me just switch over here. I'm live now, so that I don't have the time to sit down and really give some instructions. And if you know what you're doing, you can kind of come up with some really nice stuff. I mean, under the hood, I think this one is also BEM. I did this the other day. I always try to use up my Claude tokens when I don't use it for work. I just play around it a bit and post it on Twitter. So you see all this kind of interaction. This header here for micro. So you have this kind of thing. I just described this to the Claude, and he made a canvas object. And this is kind of what is happening here. When I told him when I press, I even want to have it like snip. And then I told it I want to have a header that when I scroll down, it fades in. And the images don't work here because the placeholder images are a relative path on the path. I didn't change them on the Anthropic server for the preview. And then I just put like growing. This is also a little canvas of thing down here. I just describe how I want to have it look. So, I mean, you can do really nice stuff, and that's what I was saying. You can make a blueprint. Now you can go in there and you could say, okay, how do I transfer this over to Bricks? Or did he do the BEM, how I asked him to do it? Or would I change something? But you have a nice, I came up, this took me around 15 minutes.
Can I just say this looks like jelly in the Quake engine?
It's
cool though.
Here's another one. Yeah, so I described. I was watching football the other day. Germany lost. We're out of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just said, okay, give me like a Ken Burns type of header. You could now put more context in there. So image in the background and color and the football a headline. Then you go down here. I just said again, I want to have this kind of animation. Here's an image. I made this card stack that kind of goes back. It's like little round cards. The images are missing here now
Some cool
because I'm
stuff.
running it from local. Again, this took me in Claude with the artifacts feature, took me, let's say, 10 minutes. Just like going back and
So
forth five times.
in episode 4, we really got to sit down and see how we're gonna make this, because today's episode is very conceptual, right? We're talking about a lot of different tools and how they can be implemented and become part of the process, and what can be done with them and where it might be heading. But then in episode 4, of course, we want to see actual page building. But I'm seeing like that this could become very interesting. We're gonna have some behind the scenes talks about how we're really gonna do this on episode 4.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know. That's all I can say for now. I'm just spitballing, just thinking out loud. Let's see. Here, Dave had a nice comment. AI would build a website where the logo is bigger. That's probably true. Jennifer does say, ask Claude to get creative, and he will. Way more creative than ChatGPT, not always pretty. It gives you cool ideas. Again, yes, it's like for inspiration. That's what I'm using ChatGPT for, or any AI, to get inspired, to get inspiration. I mean, I can go to Dribble. Like literally, when I create a mood board, I use AI, and then I go to Dribble and to what's the other one? For some reason I can't think of it right now, but you know, those inspiration things. And then I just Google, like if I build a website for a dentist, then I just Google dentists in Hamburg, dentists in Berlin, dentists in 4 other cities, and then I just machine gun it and just open websites and just look at. So, but that's like, for me, it's always like AI is becoming just part of the mix of what I do. And it's
It's a
just
tool for sure.
helping me become more. And that's what I wanted to, from my own perspective, kind of get into real quick, because earlier on, like towards the beginning of this stream, I talked about how this can become part of our workflows. And I'm just gonna, for shits and giggles, I'm gonna bring up my workflow and just think out loud. Where do I share my screen? There, it's already there. And think out loud about how AI could become part of this, right? So for me, my workflows, and I'm sure this is probably similar for all of you guys. It's like 3 phases. Phase 1 is discovery, and phase 2 is implementation, and phase 3 is the launch. And I kind of, when we came into this conversation, and still now after this conversation, it still feels to me like most of these steps would benefit most from the way I approach web projects, without turning them inside out completely and just redoing my entire process. This is where I get the most benefit. Like, of course, you have qualification where you just announce first meeting with the client. There's no AI in there. Then,
Oh, not. I use a tool like Butter. And when I have a client meeting online, it actually it transcribes the whole meeting, and the clients really love it when I send them back a transcription and the main takeaways of the meeting.
true, actually. So even there, you could have some. What's it called? Butter.
Butter.us. It's a meeting platform for webinars.
Yeah, I use TLDV.
So there's other ones that do it, right?
Sure.
Could be interesting. Yes. First meeting, project preparations.
Honestly, all client meetings benefit from that. Like I think I'm going to take notes, and then I never do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
true.
having a
Yeah.
recording.
Being able to go back and read through the meeting. And it's better than listening to the meeting, because then you kind of have to skip around. But if you have a transcript, you can just read, you can just
Well,
you
and,
know,
and it's getting
control
better to
everything.
the point where it's not even just, I mean, you get the full transcript, but it also do like summary, it'll do bullet
Yep.
points, it'll, make
Yeah.
it so you don't have to read the whole
Actionable
thing.
items. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
highlight
Yeah.
highlight
True.
the
Yeah. You
stuff.
can do that.
Gives you
Have it summarize
stats.
it.
TLDV gives you stats of like how long you were speaking, other people were speaking, filler words, all sorts of stuff.
Repeat the name of that, Mark. TL.
TLDV.
So it's like TLDR.
Yep. Yep.
Just shamelessly taking notes here for myself.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. I
Everyone
mean, I
else is
do
benefiting
domain.
too. It's good. That's why we do
Sorry.
this live. That's
Yeah,
why we
I
do it
thought
live.
I thought it might also be interesting to like we can also use this opportunity sort of as a side note to kind of compare workflows. I set up, I determine whether the client needs email and mailboxes or whether they already have that. I set up their domain and hosting, dev environment. None of this I think is gonna, but again, you might prove me wrong here. Like setting up a dev environment is setting up a dev environment. There's no AI in there. But then data consolidation, I can totally see that, right? Like the client sends me a bunch of data that they already have. I do interviews, I do goal discovery, data assessment, I create a fact sheet where I ask them the questions about what's their USP, etc. And then certainly from my notes, I can have AI. I can use AI to sort of create summaries or feedback debriefs or something like that. Market analysis, there's probably room for AI in that. Investigation of competition, audience, market situation, keywords and SEO concept again. Yes. Um, and then yeah, for the structure, this is really where I have used AI most yet to just set up a sitemap or just a website
Oh yeah,
structure.
that's loves doing that. You can some of them can even output you. What I did before this was Mermaid. It's called Mermaid. There are
Hmm.
different tools that can actually output directly charts and all that kind of stuff. Really helps just to get
Yeah,
a foot on the ground. Yeah.
yeah, and just a flow chart for mood boards. Again, I think I
Yeah.
outlined that earlier,
Totally.
right? Like where do I go to find inspiration? Then for the UX design and wireframe, again, Reloom alone is worth a lot. Like even if you just use the free version, you can then just take a
Yeah.
screenshot and override it later. It's still useful to get inspiration. But then I'm still kind of foggy on like as soon as I get into phase two, okay, setting up a CI, yes, there I can definitely imagine asking ChatGPT like what colors would like it's a dentist, they do this and that. I figured out A, B, C, and D about them. What would their corporate identity look like? And then just kind of hone in from that broad answer, be like, what color palette would you do? And yeah, that's certainly something I can imagine. Copywriting media for sure. Although, I mean, I personally come from journalism and copywriting as a background. I've done that a long time in my life. So I would still like. I think there's at this point there's probably a lot of people who just use AI to do the copywriting and then just paste the text. But I'm
Or
at
maybe as
this
a
point.
placeholder. Yeah.
But at this point in time,
Better
I would
better than
still.
lorem ipsum. Sorry.
It's yeah, it's better. Yeah, exactly as placeholders in lorem ipsum. But I would certainly question how far that would get you if you just use it. Yeah, I hear Dave says that, right? I'm terrible with color palettes, so I definitely rely on AI where possible. And I can see the utility in that for sure, big time. Media, creator, image, edit images, text, logos, etc. for the web. How do we feel about AI image generation? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I
Placeholder.
haven't used it yet.
I done a lot of it,
Yeah.
but mainly for fun. Yeah, just because it's fascinating that a machine can dream up stuff. And then now with the video coming around the corner, my brother
Oh yeah.
certainly likes it. He does a lot of video, and the drone shots are pretty incredible. What's coming out of AI now,
Hmm.
moving pictures, but all this kind of still image stuff. It's if you go for the realistic version, you can actually use it. You have to really prompt it to be natural.
Hmm.
Then you get a lot of stuff that really looks like I don't know. It has an it looks artificial, or it has six fingers. I mean, the finger problem is kind of gone a little bit. It, I use it sometimes as placeholder, but mostly not,
Yeah.
because just out of. But there are more topics to it than just generating images. You can replace backgrounds. You can relight images. You can take a real image and you can relight it to match the branding or the colors of the brand. That
Oh, that is
I do
cool.
use,
Yeah.
or you can remove the background of an image. That I often also use.
Mhm.
What I really use often, I get shitty image from a client. He says, "Oh yeah, we had this old website, and it was like back in the 2010s. The image is like 800 by 600 pixels. I just upscale stuff.
Oh,
It's
hell yes.
incredible at that.
Yes.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And big time. I'm using this app called Upscale. It's entirely free. It's
yeah,
on Linux, Windows, and Mac. Totally. This is almost a daily thing for me because it's so common that clients send you low res images and you need to upscale them, and it can be
yeah,
so useful.
totally.
So big time with you there. And that's like the first time I really got a whiff of what AI can do was back in 2019. So a couple of years before ChatGPT really exploded onto the scene is when NVIDIA introduced DLSS, right? Which is exactly that. It's just generative AI. Gets trained on millions and millions of images, and that's how it knows how to run. Like if you want to run the latest AAA game, but your computer isn't that strong, you just use DLSS and you run the game at a lower
Yeah,
resolution. And then the AI, knowing what it's supposed to look like, upscales it on the fly for you. And it's part of the hardware on the graphics card, and you get better FPS. And that was the first time where I was like, oh my God, that's what AI can do. So, yeah, big time.
yeah. Yeah, and that's where Apple would come in and call it probably machine learning, because it's kind of a narrow AI. It's not it's artificial. Is it intelligence? But it's in a way it is, and that's why I think that this topic of how should we call it and why are we fatigued because of the topic. Because since 2010 we're talking about AI, but
Yeah.
I think that the term is really something that is now actually true, and before it was more narrow. Yeah,
Mm.
totally.
And we have UI design, flesh out wireframes, designs, visuals. Oh, by the way, just quickly gonna interrupt here. I use image editing AI now with my Samsung phone. Very interesting. Says Dave then. And wait, was it Jeff here? I'm considering AI image generation for my blog featured image, and I can so feel that because it's such a tedious pain in the ass to come up with images for your blog posts. I'm totally with you there.
I do that as well. To be honest, I have a personal blog on my page, and I just put stuff there. I generate it with AI, but it's personal. It's not corporate. So because if you want to do a good corporate, you have to kind of transport the humanness of it. I hate like stock imagery on corporate sites. So
Yeah,
it's
then you
kind of
definitely need to come up with something original, human. As long as it's people with 6 fingers, I think we can all agree. Or 12. Wait, what else do we have?
Yeah, I totally get that one. I feel conflicted, wondering if it would kind of make the blog look dated in 2, 3 years. I totally get that.
Yeah,
When I started
because
using the first image stable diffusion, I was so blown away. And now I look at the images and they look like if I were playing a game of the 90s. So I would look back to my first experience with like 3D stuff,
yeah,
and I was like, oh my God, so bad.
Yeah,
yeah, agreed.
I'll take the unpopular opinion that I'm not a fan of the image generation stuff. Yeah, so I have a lot of artist friends that are pretty upset with the whole thing with Adobe and with Instagram.
Oh yeah,
So yeah,
the
so
ethical
I'll figure that out.
implications for paintings and music and stuff like that. If you there's a what's it called? There's a YouTube channel, Cold Fusion. He did a really good one about AI and what it's actually doing to artists, and that's a very real problem. So we should keep that in mind.
Yeah, like a lot of
That's why I also
photographers.
shy away from generating images.
Yeah,
I
was just going to add that, like, you guys have a lot of you're a photographer, right, Maddie?
Yeah.
Like there was this big what was the Adobe Firefly a few years ago, and then it turns out they were just using everyone's photos just to train AI the whole time, and they told people after the fact. So
yeah. But again, here Dave has a good point. Generative fill, for instance, is just same as isolating things from backgrounds, right? Is where AI is really useful. Speaking
Oh,
of
actually,
which,
I
if
did
this,
that the other day. Yeah, yeah. In Photoshop, you have built-in AI. You have like this feature,
in
and you
Photoshop,
just
you
get
have
an
that.
image from the client, and they say they have this portrait photo, and you have to put it into a box that's landscape. What do?
That's
You
right.
do? You just fill it up. You just
Yeah,
fill it up with AI. Yeah.
yeah. And that's actually for if there's anybody in the chat, probably not, but who knows any Linux tools that does do that for me, like isolating stuff from the background and generative fill. That would be awesome because there's no way I'm running Photoshop. Like, it's not possible.
One thing I wanted to add to UI design here is that recently there was this Figma just came out with its AI. They had to retract it because it was doing a little bit copyright infringement as well. Um, but talking of designs coming down the pipe, I mean, we all worked agencies, and then you just get like a ready design from some designer, and they mostly these days work in Figma. So now Figma as well has designs that are based on AI. So they just type in, please create a weather app, and it kind of lays out the whole thing. It doesn't have to consider code or something like this. It still does all the like stacking and all that kind of stuff. You can even wire up the prototype now. It's all just came out like 1 month ago. So, I mean, even if you don't use AI, you probably will maybe get a design handed down to you from a designer using AI in
See,
Figma.
Yeah.
I hear that. It sounds exciting. And then if I was a more full-time Figma user, if that was my job, I would be terrified of something like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, is that what we have to be? Should I be more terrified of AI with web design in that sense? Like, that sounds like a lot of people losing jobs and the job market crunching when I hear something like that.
Hmm. Daniel asked that question here. As for Figma designs or at least wireframes, has anybody had any luck with AI so far? So yeah, not me. I haven't really tried it that much yet.
It's pretty new.
Yeah, I mean, I have a
Did they,
question
they
specifically
retracted
regarding
it.
that. Is like, how do you like if you wanted to design something, right? If you had an idea for a website, you need to make like a landscaping website or something. Is there a place for AI right now? And I tried it a little bit in Claude over here on my other screen, but like if you said, hey, I need to make a landscape website, I'll give you a bunch of info, but I also like have done a little bit of market research. Can I give you like 5 websites and you just take like you just get so you get the vibe of kind of what I'm going for and take slight inspiration from that. I know that's probably like slight copyright stuff and I know it gets weird with that, but I also tried that and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, can Claude not directly access websites and like pull that yet? Or like I don't know if we like what's
No,
is there a
it
workflow
can't.
that's possible there yet or no?
No?
No.
As I said, Anthropic kind of is more security and ethical oriented, at least in the beginning, and they are still not opening up their models to the web. So that was always don't don't do. So even Skynet got overly dangerous the moment it could access the whole internet,
Mhm.
and that's the first thing OpenAI did. You can basically have it Google the web or Bing the web or however whatever is working in the background now. That Claude can't do. It can't read web pages. So you can post in the HTML, you can post in screenshots, and it will act on that, but it can't directly fetch the information. And another thing the day I made the Postmark site where you guys were building it, I put in a screenshot of Postmark and I said, could please recreate this website? And the first answer was, oh, I'm sorry, Max, I can't recreate copyright protected material. So I had to kind of tweak it a little bit, and I had to say, you know what? It's just an inspiration. Pick up the colors, the layout, and all that kind of stuff, but make it about. And I told it another topic. I don't know what I said it, and then it created the design. So,
Yeah,
but
I
before
remember
that, it
seeing a
wouldn't.
screenshot. I think it was about pretzels or dog or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Uh,
Interesting.
Okay, and then from there in my process, I go over to like this is still implementations, design and content part. Then I go into and then the actual work in Bricks begins, and that's where I currently like we're actually working in Bricks. I don't see much happening. I see using AI still for getting solving problems for me, asking it to give me a code snippet or something like that. But then theme configuration, front page, all other pages, metadata. Metadata, I can imagine. If it's not, if it's just about having a meta description versus not having one, and it doesn't need to be keyword optimized or something, just slam something in there, then I would definitely use ChatGPT for that. Responsive design, GDPR shit, cookie policy 404 page, like all of this stuff is still mostly just doing it on foot, right? I can see this. All of this, I would say, is just by hand.
Yeah, but it's
Perhaps I'm skipping
mainly
over
by
something
hand
here.
because you're in the driver's seat and you're not on the code level, so you have this interface between you and what has to happen. And as
Mm-hmm.
we said before, the models are not good in clicking buttons yet, so that's why you're
Yeah,
kind of limited in what it can do for you.
yeah,
And
I think so.
if you would just work on the design, you could tell it to be responsive. Why not? It would just output responsive code. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think what you're saying makes sense, right? If somebody hand codes a website and is not using a page builder like Bricks or WordPress or anything for that, like just doing it by hand, then AI suddenly becomes a very, very powerful ally. But for
Is
us
there
mere mortals,
is there anything you implement, Max, where like you kind of like bank the memory? So like for instance, if you were doing like all this stuff and you were trying to get, build basically like almost like Bricks websites, but use AI and then potentially like, I don't know what you could do, like export the JSON, whatever. Like let's say you're using something like Brendan's example when he used PineGrow and he put like the ACSS variables into like he kind of integrated it with that. Like I'm assuming, Brendan, you just kind of told it like what to use. Can you do that at like a global level on Claude? So every time you come back and create new things, it's like, listen, Claude, you already know what I'm doing here. You already have this past information. Here's the current application. Can you make sure that can you like train it on that specific data, like without having to put it in every time? Is there like a memory or
Yeah,
something?
you can. That feature is called. It's not. It's also not that. It's pretty recent. It's on pair with OpenAI's GPTs. Basically, GPTs are customized ChatGPT versions, and Claude calls them projects. So
Okay.
you go in there, you dump all your context. So we were saying the more context, the better. You can dump your whole project. You can dump the Bricks source code in there. You can dump your entire CSS file in there. And then you ask questions. And it knows about your variables and it knows about the source code. And so suddenly it becomes much more relevant to your project. So you could also use it for discovery. You could just dump everything about the client in there, or everything you researched, and then you can ask questions.
Wow. That's
So
very
this
powerful.
is called
interesting.
projects. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me have a
and
look at
then
my
I think
person.
that pretty much sums it up. I'm not going to go through phase 3, but
We're gonna have to start
Yeah.
using
One
some
thing
AI.
I saw with Bricks, we're talking about what surfaces can you leverage to use AI, and I think there is also the surface of now recently made much more secure, but the function calling.
mm-hmm.
So this was another surface where you can really leverage AI because you have a narrow handover point. So basically, you have your little curly bracket, and then you say echo, and then you can echo out a function in Bricks. You're familiar with that technique?
Mm-hmm.
No,
No? So just show it for a second, or over time, no?
might as
We can do
well.
it another time.
Might another.
I might have
Let's do
well.
another 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
We still
Um,
have
um,
strong viewership, but yeah, I probably need to head out soon. So
yeah, so
let me
what I'm
just bring this
doing
up.
here is what you can do in, are we still there?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, okay. I just had a funny noise. Okay, so what you can do, you can go into your functions, and this basically, sometimes people don't use a sidechain for Bricks, but this makes sense now. I just use this default child theme. I didn't give it a new name, didn't give it anything. I just put it in here just to demo it quickly. You can go into your functions PHP from your child theme. Let me open that. And basically, this is in there, and I guess the register custom elements is already in there, or this one as well. But what you can add your custom functions here. You can add whatever function you want in your functions PHP, and then you can. I got a cramp. I just got a cramp. Okay. I'm sitting too long. I have to stand a little bit. I got a cramp in my leg.
Ouch.
Okay, so what you can do, yeah, I usually have a standing desk, so I just have to put that up. Okay. What you can do now, what I'm showing here is you can have functions you call, and this output information you can just use in Bricks. So we have this function called Bricks total posts. And what you can also see since version Bricks 1.9.7, where we had this big hack going on and making it vulnerable to everybody, and they made it more secure. Now you have to kind of whitelist the functions you can call. Before you didn't have to do that. And so you have to kind of put them into a filter here, telling that you allow this function. So I put it in here. And then inside of Bricks itself, you can go to the interface. Let me see. And then you can use this kind of syntax here. So you can use it anywhere you want. You can use it in a text box. You can use it in style definitions. You can where you can input something. You could basically also use it here to output a value. And this is server rendered content. And and when you look at this, it would now output the total amount of posts.
Yeah.
And what did I put it? Yeah, 2 posts, and on this test website. And here you can see where probably AI is going to come in handy, because you have a really small surface. You just have this return parameter. So it's what's going back, you can use that. And then you can have all the complexity is reduced to this one return. So there is not much problems there. You can do WooCommerce stuff. You can output HTML. You can do a lot of stuff that you might want to use in Bricks. And if you're not really familiar with the whole code base of, let's say, WooCommerce or WordPress, you can just dump it into the context. Actually, it knows a lot about it already. It has been trained on it because it's open source. And you get relevant functions.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, folks.
This is amazing.
Lots of cool stuff. I feel like we could go forever, but I want to be respectful of people's time.
Yeah, this has been great. This has been really enlightening. I think it sets a nice stage for episode 4, which, with any luck, is going to happen next week. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited to see everything in deeper action here, Max. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Definitely.
This was dope.
Declare variables.
Very good.
That's good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, seriously, thanks, Max. Yeah, I mean, your comments have always been very insightful, and I've been meaning to get you on a stream for a while. So I'm glad it's happening, and I'm glad it's happening again, hopefully next week. And until then, we'll, keep in touch.
Oh yeah.
Keep everybody updated.
Max,
Thank you
where
very
can people
much.
find you and everything? If anybody wants to follow you or anything like that.
I'm Max Ziebell, ZEE, like my name, all in one word, at X or Twitter. And I have the same domain, Max Ziebell Germany, DE. And then I have an agency called World Optimizer with a Z.com. And basically, that's my contact surface. I'm not at LinkedIn. I'm more of a background guy. And so in that sense, I'm really happy you pulled me out of my closet here. First, I usually in the comments. So yeah, thanks for having me and giving me so much space to talk.
We're just glad you're not AI yourself. We were all concerned.
Exactly.
He's really, really good AI.
He's convincing.
We haven't.
Okay, thanks to everybody in the audience. I see Daniela is still around, and so a lot of people stuck from the beginning to the end. That's really great. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and sharing your thoughts. And we hope to see you guys again soon.
Oh yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it so much.
Peace, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.